Okay, so let's do a little exercise. I'm going to remove the invocations to display down there. What do you guys think the output of this program is going to be? Right, so it's going to be count 1, count 2 is count as 1. Then what happens on the second invocation? So think about this. The second invocation is going to increment both count 1 and count 2. But watch what happens. Let me format this a little bit better so it's easier to see. Okay, so on the first instantiation of product on line 34, we have count 1 equals 1 and count 2 equals 1. That's because we incremented both count 1 and count 2. But look what happens on line 38 when we instantiate the second product. Count 1 is still 1, but count 2 becomes 2. So why is that? If I open up my debugger and inspect product 1 and product 2, you'll notice they both have a count 1 field. So count 1 is 1 on product 2, count 1 is 1. That's because if I step through the invocation of the constructor, count 1 starts off at 0 and then gets incremented. Count 2 starts off at 0 and then gets incremented. But the second time that we invoke the product constructor, count 1 is still 0 and then gets incremented, but count 2 is 1 and then gets incremented. That's because both of these objects, product 1 and product 2, own a count 1. They have two different count 1s that have different values. But because count 2 is static, it is shared between all of the product instantiations. Meaning if I were to introduce a third product, count 2 would eventually become 3. That's because, again, count 2 is data that is not instantiated by creating an object. It is always present. And there can only be one. So think of a static field or a static member as the Highlander.